The sounds of New Seoul Station filled the air like a living thing. Thousands of voices speaking hundreds of languages mixed with the hum of transport pods and the beeping of cargo loaders. Daiho walked carefully through the market district, his white cane tapping the metal floor in a steady rhythm. The cane was more than just a stick. It sent out sound waves that his small earpiece translated into clicks and beeps, helping him understand the world around him. He was 16 years old and blind since he was 12. The radiation accident on Titan took everything from him. His parents died that day and his eyes stopped working a week later in the hospital. Now he lived alone in a tiny room in the lower levels of the station, working part-time at a repair shop to pay for food and rent. Life was hard, but Daiho had learned to survive. The market was always crowded on Station Day 7. Aliens from dozens of species came here to buy and sell goods from across the galaxy. Daiho knew this route well. 15 minutes of careful walking would take him from his apartment to the repair shop, where old Kim waited for him. Kim was kind enough to give a blind orphan a job even when others said he was useless. Daiho turned left at the fountain. He could hear the water splashing and feel the cool mist on his face. His cane beeped faster as he approached a group of people standing near a food stall. He started to move around them when someone grabbed his shoulder hard. "Look what we have here," a rough voice said in the trade language most species used. A little human walking around like he owns the place. Daiho's heart began to beat faster. He recognized that voice. Thex, a young Vrelian who often hung around the market with his friends looking for trouble. The Vrelians were tall reptilian creatures with thick scales and powerful bodies. They came from a warrior culture and looked down on species they thought were weak. Humans were near the bottom of that list. "Please, I need to get to work," Daiho said quietly, trying to pull away. "Work?" Another voice laughed. This one belonged to Thex's friend. "What work can a broken human do? You can't even see where you're going." "He has a fancy stick to help him," Thex said, and Daiho heard the cruel smile in his voice. "Let me see that." Before Daiho could react, strong hands ripped the cane from his grip. He heard it clatter on the ground a few feet away. Panic rose in his chest. Without the cane, he was completely lost. The market sounds became overwhelming without the guiding clicks of his device. "Give it back," Daiho said, trying to sound brave but hearing his voice shake. "Please, you want it back?" Thex asked. "Come and get it, blind boy." Daiho heard footsteps moving away. He reached out, trying to find something to hold on to, something to help him understand where he was. His hand touched a wall. He started to move toward where he thought the cane had fallen. Then he heard a crunch, the sound of breaking electronics and snapping carbon fiber. His cane. They were destroying his cane. "Oops," Thex said, laughter in his voice. "I stepped on it. So sorry." More laughter from the group. Daiho stood frozen, his hand still on the wall. That cane cost 6 months of savings. It was the only way he could move around independently. Without it, he would be trapped in his apartment, unable to work, unable to buy food. "Stop," he said, but his voice came out as barely a whisper. "What was that?" Thex moved closer. Daiho could smell the strange scent Vrelians had, like metal and stone. Did the little human say something? "Please," Daiho said louder. "I need that. I need it to live." "Maybe you should have thought about that before your weak species joined the coalition," Thex said. "Humans don't belong in space. You're too soft, too fragile. You break too easily. Just like your little stick." Another crunch. More pieces breaking. Daiho felt tears building in his eyes. He hated crying in front of others, especially in front of aliens who already thought humans were weak, but he couldn't stop the tears from falling. "Look, it's crying," one of Thex's friends said. "Just like a human. Always crying." Someone pushed Daiho hard. He lost his balance and fell to the floor. The metal was cold and dirty. He heard the Vrelians laughing as they walked away, their heavy footsteps fading into the market noise. Daiho sat on the ground, not knowing which direction to move. He could hear people walking past him. Lots of people. But no one stopped. No one asked if he was okay. In the galaxy, most species believed in not interfering with others. If you were weak enough to be pushed down, that was your problem, not theirs. He reached out carefully, feeling the ground around him. His fingers found pieces of his cane. The smooth carbon fiber shaft was broken into several pieces. The electronic components were crushed beyond repair. 6 months of work destroyed in seconds for someone else's entertainment. Daiho pulled his knees to his chest and tried to think. He needed to get home, but he didn't know which direction home was anymore. The market was huge, with dozens of corridors leading in different directions. Without his cane, every direction felt the same. He was lost in a place he walked through every day. The station noise pressed in on him from all sides. Voices in languages he didn't understand. The beeping of machines. Music from various stalls. The rumble of transport pods overhead. Without the organizing clicks from his cane, it was just chaos. Overwhelming, frightening chaos. He thought about calling for help, but who would come? Station security didn't care about conflicts between civilians unless someone was seriously hurt. The repair shop was expecting him, but old Kim had bad legs and couldn't come searching through the market. The other humans on the station were busy with their own survival. Everyone was alone here, trying to make it one more day. Daeho leaned back against what he hoped was a wall. The tears kept coming. He tried to wipe them away, but more replaced them. He felt so stupid for crying, but he couldn't help it. Everything felt too big, too hard, too much. He was 16 and alone in a galaxy that didn't care if he lived or died. His parents were gone. His eyes were gone. Now his independence was gone too. He had nothing left except a tiny apartment he wouldn't be able to reach and a job he wouldn't be able to get to. Maybe Thex was right. Maybe humans were too weak for space. Maybe he should have never left his room this morning. Maybe he should just give up. The market continued around him, indifferent to his pain. Aliens walked past, some stepping over him, some walking around him, none stopping to help. This was life in the galaxy. You survived or you didn't. No one owed you anything. No one cared about your struggles. Daeho held the broken pieces of his cane in his hands and cried. He didn't know what else to do. He was trapped in darkness with no way forward and no way back. For the first time since his parents died, he felt truly hopeless. The 20 minutes that followed felt like hours. Time moved strangely when you were lost and afraid. Daeho stayed against the wall, trying to calm down enough to think of a plan. But every time he tried to focus, the overwhelming noise of the station pulled his thoughts apart. He didn't know that everything was about to change. He didn't know that someone was watching him. He didn't know that help was coming, and with it a future he couldn't imagine. 20 minutes passed while Daeho sat against the wall. His tears had dried, but the fear remained. He tried counting his breaths like his mother taught him years ago when he got scared. In and out, in and out. It helped a little, but not enough. The market sounds continued around him. He heard a merchant arguing with a customer about prices. Someone's child was crying nearby. A cargo loader beeped as it moved past. Normal life continued while his world had fallen apart. Daeho tried to make a plan. He could crawl, feeling the walls until he found something familiar. But the market was huge, and his hands would be bleeding before he found his way. He could shout for help, but most aliens would just ignore him. He could wait here until the market closed, but then what? The lights would go down and he would be even more lost. Every option felt impossible, then he felt it. A gentle touch on his shoulder. Not a grab or a push like before. This was soft, careful, like the person was afraid of scaring him. Daeho flinched anyway. His body remembered the cruelty from 20 minutes ago. He pulled away, expecting more pain, more mocking, more laughter. "It's okay," a voice said in Korean. A woman's voice. Kind and calm. "You're safe," Korean. Someone was speaking Korean. Daeho hadn't heard his own language spoken in months. Most humans on the station spoke trade language to fit in better. Hearing Korean felt like a warm blanket on a cold night. The woman moved closer. Daeho heard her knees touch the ground as she knelt beside him. She smelled like soap and something chemical, like the cleaning supplies at the repair shop, but different. Cleaner. More scientific. "My name is Minji," the woman said, still in Korean. Her voice was steady and sure. "I'm going to help you." "I don't need help," Daeho said automatically. He had learned to say that. People respected you more when you didn't need things. Needing things made you weak in the eyes of the galaxy. "Yes, you do," Minji said, but not in a mean way. Just honest. "And that's okay. Everyone needs help sometimes." She was quiet for a moment. Daeho could hear her breathing. Then she said 3 words that broke something open in his chest. "I'm here, Daeho." He froze. She knew his name. How did she know his name? He started to ask, but the words caught in his throat. Those 3 words, spoken in Korean in a kind voice by someone who somehow knew him, they were too much. The wall he had built around his feelings cracked and crumbled. Daeho started crying again, but differently this time. Not from fear or hopelessness. From relief. from the strange feeling of being seen by someone when he thought he was invisible. "How do you know my name?" he finally managed to ask. "I knew your parents," Minji said softly. "Your mother was Lee Soo. Your father was Lee Taewon. We worked together on Titan before the accident. I was part of the research team stationed near the mining facility." Daeho's breath caught. His parents. Someone who knew his parents. He had been so alone since they died that he forgot other people remembered them too. They weren't just memories in his head. They had been real people who knew real people. "You knew them?" His voice was small, childlike. "I did," Minji said. "Your mother was brilliant. She could solve engineering problems that made the rest of us look like children. Your father made everyone laugh, even during the hardest days. They loved you so much. They talked about you constantly." Daeho felt Minji's hand on his shoulder again, gentle and steady. "I've been on the station for 8 months," she continued. "I saw you a few times in the market. I knew who you were. I wanted to talk to you, to tell you I knew your parents, but you always looked so independent. I didn't want to interfere. I thought maybe you didn't want reminders of them." "I think about them every day," Daeho whispered. "I know," Minji said. "I think about them too." They sat in silence for a moment. The market noise continued around them, but it felt less overwhelming now. Less lonely. "What happened to your cane?" Minji asked, though her tone suggested she already knew. "Some Vrelian kids broke it," Daeho said. "They thought it was funny." He heard Minji take a deep breath. When she spoke again, her voice was harder, angry but controlled. "That's not okay," she said. "None of this is okay. The way humans are treated on this station. The way the security ignores us, the way other species think they can hurt us without consequences. None of it is okay." "But that's just how things are," Daeho said. He had heard this his whole life. Humans were new to space. They had to accept their place. "No," Minji said firmly. "That's how things have been. But things can change. Things will change." She stood up and Daeho heard her moving around him, picking up the pieces of his broken cane. "Can you fix it?" he asked hopefully. "No," Minji said. "It's destroyed completely. But I can do something better. Much better." "Do you trust me, Daeho?" Did he trust her? He didn't know her. But she knew his parents. She spoke Korean. She knelt beside him when everyone else walked past. She said his name like he mattered. "Yes," he said. "I trust you." "Good," Minji said. "Then come with me. Can you stand?" Daeho nodded. He used the wall to push himself up. His legs were stiff from sitting and he stumbled. Immediately Minji's hand was there, steadying him. "I've got you," she said. "Hold on to my arm." "I'll guide you." Daeho took her arm. It felt strange to rely on someone else like this. He had worked so hard to be independent, but right now independence wasn't possible. Right now he needed help. "Where are we going?" he asked as they started walking. "To my lab," Minji said. "I'm a xenobiologist. I study how different species' bodies work and how we can use that knowledge to help people. I've been working on something that might help you. Something that could change everything." "I can't pay for anything," Daeho said quickly. "I barely have enough money for food." "I'm not asking for money," Minji said. "I'm asking for trust. What I'm going to show you, what I'm going to offer you, it's experimental. It hasn't been tested on humans yet. It might not work. But if it does work, you won't just be able to walk around again. You'll be able to see in ways that normal-sighted people can't." Daeho didn't understand what she meant, but something in her voice made him believe her, made him hope. They walked through the market together. Minji guided him carefully, warning him about steps and obstacles. She spoke to him in Korean the whole time, telling him what they were passing, describing the path ahead. It felt good to hear his language. It felt good to not be alone. As they walked, Daeho thought about those 3 words. "I'm here, Daeho." Such simple words, but they changed everything. They meant someone saw him, someone cared. Someone was willing to help. For the first time in 4 years since his parents died and his eyes stopped working, Daeho felt something other than survival. He felt hope. He didn't know what Minji's lab would hold. He didn't know what experimental technology she wanted to offer him. But he knew that 20 minutes ago he was lost and hopeless, and now he was walking toward a future that might be different, all because of a gentle touch and 3 words spoken in Korean by someone who remembered his parents. Sometimes healing starts with the smallest things: a kind voice, a steady hand, the knowledge that you're not alone in the darkness. Minji's lab was in the research sector of the station, far from the crowded markets and residential areas. The walk took 30 minutes. Daeho held on to Minji's arm the whole time, listening to her describe everything they passed. She had a way of talking that made him feel like he could almost see the world around him through her words. When they entered the lab, the temperature dropped. The air felt cleaner, filtered. Daeho heard the hum of machines and computers. The room smelled like metal and electricity. "Sit here," Minji said, guiding him to a chair. It was comfortable, with soft padding. "I'm going to explain what I've been working on. Listen carefully because this is important. This is a choice only you can make." Daeho settled into the chair and waited. He heard Minji moving around the room, gathering things. "For the past 3 years," she began, "I've been studying how different species perceive the world. Humans use eyes. The Vrelians use a combination of eyes and heat sensors. The Quellan species use sound waves like your cane did. Every species has a different way of understanding reality." She paused. Daeho heard something being placed on a table near him. "I started wondering," Minji continued, "what if we could give humans more than just sight? What if we could combine the best parts of how different species perceive things? What if being blind didn't have to mean seeing less, but could mean seeing more?" "I don't understand," Daeho said. "I've created a neural interface," Minji explained. "It's a device that connects directly to your brain through your optical nerves. The ones that used to send signals from your eyes. Those nerves are still there, still working, just not receiving any information. My device would give them information again, but not just visual information like eyes provide." She moved closer. Daeho heard her pull up another chair and sit down next to him. "The device maps the world using quantum sensors," she said. "It detects everything. Physical objects, heat signatures, electromagnetic fields, air currents, even the biological rhythms of living creatures. Then it translates all that information into signals your brain can understand. You wouldn't see like you used to. You would see better, more completely." Daeho's heart started beating faster. "That's possible?" "In theory, yes," Minji said. "I've tested it successfully on animals and in simulations, but I haven't tested it on a human yet. The ethics committee says I need more research before human trials, but that could take years. And I look at how humans are treated on this station, how you were treated today, and I think we don't have years. We need to be stronger now. Why me?" Daeho asked. "Because you need help now," Minji said simply. "Because you're brave enough to try. Because your parents would want someone to help you. And because I think you can handle what this device might show you. The world becomes very different when you can see everything." Daeho thought about his broken cane, about being trapped in his apartment, unable to work, unable to live, about the Vrelian bullies laughing at him, about being alone. "What are the risks?" he asked. "The procedure could fail," Minji said honestly. "The device might not connect properly. Your brain might reject the new signals. In the worst case, it could cause pain or seizures. I've designed it to be as safe as possible, but there are always risks with neural interfaces. And if it works, you'll never need a cane again. You'll be able to navigate better than most sighted people. You'll see things that others miss. You'll be independent again." Daeho sat quietly, thinking. This was a big decision, maybe the biggest decision of his life. But what choice did he really have? Without the device, he would be trapped and helpless. With it, he might have a chance at a real life. "I'll do it," he said. "Are you sure?" Minji asked. "Take time to think about it." "I'm sure," Daeho said. "What do I need to do?" Minji squeezed his hand. "Thank you for trusting me. The procedure will take several hours. I'm going to give you something to make you sleep. When you wake up, the device will be installed. We'll activate it together and see what happens." The next few hours passed in a blur. Minji explained the procedure step by step. Daeho lay down on a medical bed. She placed a mask over his face and told him to count backwards from 10. He made it to 7 before sleep took him. When Daeho woke up, his head hurt. Not badly, but there was a pressure behind his ears and a strange tingling in his temples. He reached up and felt a small device behind his right ear. It was smooth and warm, barely larger than a coin. "How do you feel?" Minji's voice asked from nearby. "Strange," Daeho said. "My head tingles." "That's normal," Minji said. "The neural threads are settling into place. It will stop in a few hours. Are you ready to activate the device?" "Yes," Daeho said, though he felt nervous. "Okay," Minji said. "I'm going to turn it on slowly. The information might be overwhelming at first. Your brain needs to learn how to process it. If it's too much, tell me and I'll turn it down." Daeho heard a soft beep. Then the world exploded into his mind. It wasn't sight like he remembered. It was something else. Something more. He could sense the room around him in complete detail. The walls, the ceiling, the floor. Minji standing 3 feet away. The machines humming in the corner. The air moving through the ventilation system. Everything had a presence, a shape, an energy. But it was too much. Too much information all at once. His brain couldn't organize it. Everything crashed together in chaos. Too much, he gasped. It's too much. The information decreased immediately. Minji had turned down the sensitivity. The chaos faded to something more manageable. Better? She asked. Better, he confirmed, breathing hard. Your brain needs to learn this gradually, Minji said. We'll increase the sensitivity slowly over the next few days. Right now, just try to focus on one thing at a time. Look at me. Daeho focused on where he knew Minji was standing. The device showed him her outline, her heat signature, the rhythm of her heartbeat, the electromagnetic field her nervous system generated. He could see her in ways he never imagined. I can see you, he whispered. Not like before. But I can see you. What do you see? Minji asked. Your shape, your warmth. I can see your heart beating. I can see the energy in your body. He paused. You're smiling. Yes, Minji said, and he could hear the smile in her voice too. I am. It's working, Daeho. It's actually working. They spent the next hour testing the device. Minji would place objects around the room and have Daeho identify them. At first it was hard. Everything looked strange in this new way of seeing. But gradually his brain started to understand the information, started to make sense of it. By the end of the hour, Daeho could navigate the lab without help. He could avoid obstacles. He could find objects on tables. He could do more than he ever could with his cane. This is amazing, he said. Thank you, Minji, thank you so much. Don't thank me yet, Minji said. Let's test it in the real world. Let's go back to the market. They left the lab together. This time, Daeho didn't hold Minji's arm. He walked on his own, using his new sight to guide him. The hallways of the station revealed themselves in beautiful detail. He could see every person they passed, every door they walked by, every detail of the world. When they reached the market, Minji turned the sensitivity up a bit more. The crowded space became visible to Daeho in ways that made him stop and stare, even though he had no eyes to stare with. He could see everything, every person in the market, every stall, every product. But more than that, he could see patterns, heat patterns, movement patterns, energy patterns. And that's when he saw something wrong. There was a group of Vrelian kids near a food stall, the same ones who broke his cane. They were watching human children walk past, and every time a human child passed, one of the Vrelians would touch them quickly, too fast for anyone to notice. But Daeho's new sight caught it, and more than that, it showed him what they were doing. They were leaving something on the children. A chemical marker that glowed in a specific frequency. He could see it clearly with his quantum sensors. The marked children had a faint glow that normal eyes couldn't detect. Minji, he said quietly, something's wrong. What do you see? She asked. Those Vrelians, the ones who broke my cane. They're marking human children with something, some kind of chemical that glows. Minji went very still. Show me which children. Daeho pointed out 3 children who had the glow. Minji looked at them carefully, then her face went pale. We need to follow those children, she said, quietly. I need to see where they go. They followed one of the marked children, a girl about 8 years old. She walked through the market with her mother. The Vrelians followed too, keeping their distance. Daeho watched with his new sight, seeing patterns that others missed. The Vrelians weren't just random bullies. They were organized. They had a system, and they were hunting. Minji and Daeho spent 3 days gathering evidence. Daeho's new sight made it possible to track the chemical markers that the Vrelians were placing on human children. They watched from a distance, documenting everything. The pattern became clear. The Vrelians targeted orphans and children from poor families, children who wouldn't be missed quickly if they disappeared. They marked them in the market, then followed them to learn their routines. Within a week, the marked children would vanish. We need to go to station security, Daeho said on the 3rd day. They were sitting in Minji's lab reviewing what they had learned. I already tried, Minji said, her voice tired. I went yesterday while you were resting. They laughed at me. The security chief is Vrelian. He said I was being paranoid, that humans always blame other species for their problems. But we have evidence, Daeho protested. Evidence they refuse to see. Minji said. She stood up and walked to the window looking out at the station. This is the reality, Daeho. Humans are second-class citizens here. Our complaints don't matter. Our children don't matter. We're tolerated, not respected. Daeho felt anger building in his chest. He thought about his broken cane, about the Vrelians laughing at him, about security refusing to help. How many other humans had suffered while authorities did nothing? Then what do we do? He asked. Minji turned to face him. Her expression was determined. We help ourselves. We find those children and we save them. We show the galaxy that humans aren't weak, that we protect our own. Just us? Daeho asked. We can't fight the Vrelians alone. Not alone, Minji said. There are other humans on this station who are tired of being pushed around. I've been talking to them. We're meeting tonight. Will you come? That night, Daeho followed Minji to the lower engineering levels of the station. They entered a large storage room that had been converted into a meeting space. 30 humans were already there, sitting on crates and old equipment. They looked up as Minji and Daeho entered. Daeho recognized some faces. There was old Kim from the repair shop, a woman named Hana who ran a noodle stall in the market, a man named Junho who worked in cargo loading. These were ordinary people, workers, merchants, parents, just trying to survive on a station that didn't value them. Everyone, Minji said, standing at the front of the room. This is Lee Daeho, some of you know him. 3 days ago, Vrelian thugs broke his mobility cane and left him helpless on the market floor. Everyone walked past him. No one helped. That's the world we live in. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the group. But something else happened, Minji continued. I helped Daeho. I gave him a new way to see. And with that new sight, he discovered something terrible. The Vrelians aren't just bullying us. They're taking our children. She explained what they had found. The chemical markers. The patterns. The disappearances. As she spoke, the room grew silent. Some people looked angry. Others looked scared. All of them looked tired of being victims. Station security won't help us, Minji said. So we help ourselves. I've traced the markers to a location in the abandoned industrial sector. That's where they're keeping the children before shipping them off station. We're going to get them back. You want us to fight? Hana asked. They're stronger than us. We'll lose, maybe, Minji said. But our children are worth fighting for. Our dignity is worth fighting for. I'm going whether anyone comes with me or not. I'm coming, Daeho said, standing up. All eyes turned to him. They broke my cane because they thought I was weak. They thought all humans are weak. Let's show them they're wrong. Old Kim stood up next, then Junho, then Hana. One by one, every person in the room stood. They were scared, but they were ready. They spent 2 hours planning. Daeho used his new sight to describe the industrial sector's layout. He had explored it earlier that day while the others were working. He could see things that normal security cameras missed. Weak points in the walls, air ducts large enough for people to crawl through. The exact location where the children's markers were concentrated. There are 12 children, Daeho said, showing them a map he had memorized. They're being held in a storage container in room 7. 6 Vrelians guard them in shifts. Right now there are only 3 guards because it's sleep cycle. 3 is better than 6, Junho said, but still dangerous. We don't have to fight them head-on, Minji said. We use strategy. Daeho can see things they can't. He guides us. We move quietly. We get the children out first. If we have to fight, we fight together. They gathered what they could use, old tools from the repair shop that could serve as weapons. Emergency medical supplies, communication devices to stay in contact. It wasn't much, but it would have to be enough. At midnight, they moved, 30 humans walking quietly through the station's lower levels, heading toward the industrial sector. Daeho led the way, his quantum sight showing him every detail of the path ahead. He guided them around security patrols and through abandoned corridors that no longer appeared on official maps. The industrial sector was dark and cold. Machines that once built ship parts sat silent and broken. The air smelled like rust and old grease. This was where the station put things it wanted to forget, including apparently human children. Daeho held up his hand, signaling the group to stop. His sight had detected the Vrelians ahead, 3 of them just as he had predicted. They were sitting around a heating unit talking in their language. They looked relaxed. They didn't expect any trouble. The container is 30 meters past them, Daeho whispered to Minji. We need to distract them. I have an idea, Junho said. He picked up a piece of metal and threw it down a side corridor. It clattered loudly in the silence. The Vrelians jumped up, alert. Two of them went to investigate the sound. One stayed behind to guard the container. Now, Minji whispered. They moved quickly. Teho led a small group toward the container while the others positioned themselves to block the Vrelians' return. Old Kim, despite his age, moved with surprising speed. He had been a soldier once, long ago. He knew how to move in the dark. They reached the container. One Vrelian stood in front of it, his back to them. Teho could see his heat signature, the flow of energy through his body. He could see the weak point at the base of the skull where Vrelian nervous systems clustered. All that information from studying different species with Minji's device. Junho moved first, silent as shadow. He swung a heavy wrench at the Vrelian's weak point. The alien dropped without a sound. "Help me open this," Minji said, working on the container's lock. Inside, they found 12 children. Human children ranging from 6 to 12 years old. They were scared and dirty but alive. The children's eyes went wide when they saw the rescue team. "It's okay," Hana said softly, kneeling down. "We're here to take you home." That's when everything went wrong. The other two Vrelians returned, alerted by something. They saw the rescue in progress and roared in anger. The sound echoed through the industrial sector. More Vrelians would be coming soon. "Run!" Minji shouted. "Get the children out!" Half the group grabbed the children and started running back toward the safe corridors. The other half stayed to fight. Daiho stayed with them. The Vrelians were bigger and stronger, but the humans fought with desperation and strategy. They worked together, using tools as weapons, using the industrial equipment as cover. It was messy and chaotic, but they were holding their ground. Then Daiho saw Thex arrive with more Vrelians. The bully who had broken his cane now stood at the entrance with 5 others. They were outnumbered now. Badly outnumbered. Thex saw Daiho and smiled cruelly. "The blind boy," he said. "Come to die?" "I'm not blind anymore," Daiho said, and he realized it was true. He could see better than Thex ever could. The fight intensified. The humans were being pushed back. Daiho saw Minji cornered by 2 Vrelians. She was fighting bravely, but she was losing. Daiho's new sight showed him everything. The energy patterns in the Vrelians' bodies. Their movements before they made them. The weak points in their massive frames. He grabbed a metal pipe and ran. He couldn't see Thex's surprise, but he could sense it. The Vrelian hadn't expected a blind boy to move so fast, so surely. Daiho dodged Thex's grab with ease, sliding under his arm. He struck the weak point at the base of Thex's skull with precision. Thex fell, paralyzed temporarily. Daiho moved to the next Vrelian, then the next, using his sight to find weaknesses that others couldn't see. The tide turned. The humans rallied, fighting with renewed courage. Within minutes, the Vrelians were retreating, dragging their paralyzed companions with them. The humans stood victorious in the abandoned industrial sector, breathing hard, some injured but alive. They had done what seemed impossible. They had fought back and won. The news spread through the station like fire through dry grass. 30 humans had rescued 12 children from a trafficking ring. The Galactic Coalition could no longer ignore what had happened. Too many witnesses, too much evidence, too much attention from other stations and planets. Coalition investigators arrived within 2 days. They were Quellan, a species known for their fairness and strict adherence to law. They interviewed everyone involved. They examined the abandoned industrial sector. They tested the children for the chemical markers that Daiho could see. The evidence was overwhelming. The trafficking ring had been operating for 2 years. Over 50 human children had been taken and sold to labor colonies across the galaxy. The station's security chief had been paid to look the other way. Several other officials were involved. The scandal reached beyond New Sol Station to other human settlements. 3 weeks after the rescue, the Coalition announced their findings at a public gathering in the station's main plaza. Thousands attended. Humans stood together in a group, no longer scattered and hiding. They stood proud. The Quellan investigator spoke in the trade language, her words translated and broadcast throughout the station. "We have found evidence of systematic abuse and trafficking, targeting human children. This is a violation of Coalition law and basic decency. Those responsible will face justice. The security chief has been removed and arrested. New protocols will be established to protect all species on this station, especially the vulnerable." Cheers erupted from the human section. Daiho stood with Minji, Old Kim, Hana, Junho, and the others who had fought. They had done this. They had forced change. But the investigator wasn't finished. We must also acknowledge that this situation existed because one species was not being heard, because complaints were ignored, because people were considered less important based on their biology. This cannot continue. The coalition was founded on the principle that all intelligent species deserve respect and protection. We have failed to uphold that principle here. We commit to doing better. It was a victory, but Daeho knew it was just the beginning. Words were easy. Real change would take time and constant pressure. But at least now humans on the station had hope. They had proven they could stand together and make a difference. In the weeks that followed, things shifted. Human complaints were taken seriously by the new security team. The children who had been rescued were reunited with their families or placed in better care facilities. The human community grew stronger, more connected, more willing to support each other. Minji's neural interface technology became known throughout human space. She published her research, sharing it freely with anyone who wanted to use it. Other scientists built on her work, improving it, adapting it. Within months, thousands of blind humans across the galaxy were receiving the devices. Minji refused to patent the technology or charge money for it. This was her gift to humanity. The galactic community noticed. Most species guarded their technology jealously, seeing it as a source of power and profit. Humans shared theirs freely, wanting to help rather than profit. It was unusual. It was very human, and it earned respect. Daeho's life changed completely. With his enhanced sight, he discovered he had a natural talent for engineering and design. He could visualize complex systems in ways that others couldn't. He could see stress points in structures, energy flows in circuits, patterns in data that were invisible to normal sight. Minji took him as her apprentice in the lab. He was no longer the blind orphan who fixed broken equipment for old Kim. He was a researcher, a designer, a young man with a future. Old Kim was proud of him and told everyone who would listen about his boy Daeho. 6 months after the rescue, Daeho stood in the market district again. The same market where his cane had been broken. The same spot where he had sat crying, feeling hopeless and alone. But everything was different now. He walked confidently through the crowds, his quantum sight showing him every detail. Humans greeted him as he passed. Even some aliens nodded with respect. The blind orphan had become a symbol of human resilience and innovation. He bought noodles from Hana's stall. She refused his money as always, claiming he had earned free noodles for life. He sat on a bench eating and watching the market with his strange new sight. He could see the heat from the cooking stalls, the energy of thousands of people moving through the space, the electromagnetic hum of the station's systems. The world was beautiful in ways he had never imagined when he had working eyes. A small alien child, a Quellan about 5 years old, tripped near him. The child's packages scattered across the ground. People walked around the child without stopping, just like they had walked around Daeho 6 months ago. Daeho stood up immediately. He knelt down next to the child and started gathering the scattered items. The child looked up at him with large, fearful eyes. "It's okay," Daeho said gently in the trade language. "You're safe." He helped the child stand and handed back all the packages. The child's parent arrived, apologizing and thanking him. Daeho smiled and waved them away. As he watched them disappear into the crowd, he thought about that day 6 months ago. About the touch on his shoulder. About the 3 words that changed everything. "I'm here, Daeho." Those words had healed more than just his immediate problem. They had healed something deeper. The loneliness. The feeling of being invisible. The belief that no one cared. Minji had shown him that someone did care, and that simple act of caring had started a chain reaction that changed thousands of lives. Daeho looked down at the spot where he had sat crying, clutching his broken cane. That boy felt like a different person now. So much had changed. But the most important change wasn't the technology or the victory or the respect. It was the knowledge that he wasn't alone, that humans would stand together. That kindness mattered. He walked through the market toward Minji's lab. She was expecting him for afternoon research. They were working on a new project, using his enhanced sight to develop better medical scanning equipment. It was exciting work, and they made a good team. As he walked, a young human girl approached him shyly. She was about 12, with a device behind her ear just like his, one of the thousands who had received the neural interface technology. "Are you Lee Daeho?" she asked in Korean, Yes, he said, stopping. I wanted to thank you, she said. Her eyes were closed, and he knew she was blind like he had been. But she navigated confidently with her new sight. Because of you and Dr. Kang, I can see again. Not like before, but better. I can go to school now. I can help my family. I can have a real life. Daeho felt emotion rising in his chest. This was what it was all about. Not the fame or respect or status. This. Helping others who had been where he was. You don't need to thank me, he said. Just live well. And when you see someone who needs help, be the person who stops. Be the person who says, I'm here. The girl nodded seriously. I will, I promise. She walked away and Daeho continued to the lab. When he arrived, Minji was already working, surrounded by displays and equipment. She looked up and smiled when he entered. Ready to change the world today? She asked, like she did every day. Always, he replied. They worked together until late in the evening, developing technology that would help people across the galaxy. They talked and laughed, sharing ideas and solving problems. Minji had become more than a mentor to Daeho. She was family. The family he had chosen, just like his parents would have wanted. As the station's lights dimmed for sleep cycle, Daeho thought about the journey from that terrible day to this moment. From a broken cane to revolutionary technology. From helpless victim to confident innovator. From alone to surrounded by community. It all started with 3 words. 3 simple words that acknowledged his existence and his worth. I'm here, Daeho. Those words had healed everything. Not instantly, not magically, but truly. They had reminded him that he mattered. That humans mattered. That in a vast galaxy full of different species and cultures and powers, the simple act of caring for each other was the most powerful force of all. Daeho looked out the lab window at the stars beyond the station. Humanity was still young in the galaxy, still finding its place, but he knew now that humans had something special. Not the strongest bodies or the most advanced technology or the oldest civilization, but the willingness to stop when someone fell, to kneel down beside them, to say I'm here and mean it. That was humanity's true strength. That was what would change the galaxy, not through conquest or domination, but through compassion and innovation and the refusal to accept that suffering was inevitable. Daeho smiled and returned to his work. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities. But tonight he was content. He was home. He was seen. He was healing and helping others heal too. And that was enough. That was everything.